Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavat overview class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patagamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We are discussing from the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are discussing the wonderful pastime of Narad Muni giving instructions to Yudhishthir Maharaj. After Yudhishthir Maharaj, he heard the whole story of appearance of Narsimhadev. Then he asked, how is it? He was feeling actually so very sad because Krishna appeared for Prahlad, but he was not so fortunate. He was thinking like that. So Narad Muni consoled him and said that you are the most fortunate. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj, he thought, why Krishna stayed at our home? We are completely in illusion. We are a householder. We are householders living in completely materialistic way. He was thinking out of his humility like this. And then Narad Muni, he described that nobody can understand Krishna. Even Shiva cannot understand. And then he explained the story of Tripurasur, how he was killed by Lord Shiva, being assisted by Krishna. And then after that, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked about the ways by which common people, they can also perfect their life. He asked about Varnashram Dharma and Sanatan Dharma. And Narad Muni described in great detail about the four Varnas and four Ashramas, the duty of everyone. And then he described about the ideal family life, how a husband and a wife, they should live in such a way that they help each other to progress in Krishna consciousness. So that's what we discussed. So now today we'll be beginning the 15th chapter, the last chapter of the 7th canto. So in this 15th chapter, Narad Muni, he continues the instruction for civilized human beings, and it describes that there are four types of brahmanas. One is a karma nishtha, then tapo nishtha, swadhyaya nishtha, and jnana nishtha. So karma nishtha means they are grihasthas and they are devoted to performing rituals. And then higher than them are taponishtha. They are vanaprasthas and they have devoted their life to the austerity. Higher than them is swadhyaya-nishtha. Swadhyaya-nishtha means they are brahmacharis and they are engaging in studying and preaching the Vedas. And highest amongst all these is jnana-nishtha, that is sannyasi, who is completely devoted to the knowledge, the culture of devotional service. And then it describes whom to give charity. He says that actually a jnana nishtha, a sannyasi who is absorbed in jnana, he is the best person to give charity. And if his sannyasi is not available, then charity may be given to other brahmanas also. But Prabhupada very nicely clarifies the point that Those who are practicing pure bhakti, they need not follow karma or jnana and all the other activities. And if somebody wants to contribute, the best person to give charity is a Vaishnava. One need not find a Brahmana who is performing this karma kand or jnana kand. It is not required. And Prabhupada writes that charity should be given only to a devotee of Lord Krishna, even if the devotee is not a Brahmana. So one should not feel that, oh, I will give charity only to Brahmana, not to anyone else. And if somebody thinks, okay, I'll give charity to a Vaishnava Brahman, who is a Brahman by birth. No. Kiba Vipra, Kibanyasi, Shudra Keninoy, Say Krishna Tattveta, Say Guru Hoy. So when one starts practicing devotional service, he is qualified to become a guru. He is qualified to accept all the charity. And Prabhupada, he quotes the instance pastime of Advaitacharya when he was doing Shraddha ceremony. And in Shraddha ceremony, generally, the first offering is given to the best of the Brahmanas. So Advaitacharya, he gave the first Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur, he became very concerned and he became anxious. How is it that you are giving Shraddha Patra to me? There are so many great Brahmanas, great saints, great priests who are there in the assembly. Why you are giving to me? Maha Viprayatha Kulina Samaj Niche Adar Karo Navasah Bhailaj. How is it that without any fear, without any shame, you are giving so much respect to a low-born person like me? आचार्य कहे न तुम्हें न करी भय सही आचार्य ए शास्त्र सम्मत है. So Advaitacharya says, oh Haridas Thakur, please you don't worry. I will not do anything which is against the scriptural rules and regulations. तुम्ही खाइले होय कोटि ब्राह्मण भोजन एत बोली श्राद्ध पात्र कोराई ल भोजन. So he says, if you take this श्राद्ध patra, that is equal to Koti Brahmana Bhojan, millions of Brahmanas being fed. Feeding you is equivalent to feeding millions of Brahmanas. So in this way, he offered the Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur. Name Bhaktas Chaturvedi Invad Bhakta Swapacha Priyaha. So Krishna is saying, even my devotee, if he is born in a family of a dog eater, he is also a person greater than one who knows all the Vedas. Chaturvedi. There is Chaturvedi, Trivedi, Dvivedi, the knower. Many of the people, they don't even know the meaning of what is the meaning of this. Chaturvedi means one who knows the 4 Vedas. Trivedi, one who knows the 3 Vedas. Dvivedi means one who knows 2 Vedas. But devotee of the Lord is supreme. So therefore, Prabhupada very clearly writes there that the best person to give charity is a devotee of the Lord. Muktanam api siddhanam Narayan Parayana Sudurlabha Prashantatma Kotishwapi Mahamune. As Lord Shiva is telling to Parvati, out of thousands of liberated souls, the devotee of the Lord Vishnu is the supreme. And therefore, somebody may ask, okay, but still, sometimes because we are in the family, and there are so many social customs, so should we do all these rules and regulations of the normal social life? Should we do all this Shraddha and all the other other customs which are followed in the family? Yes, a Grihastha devotee still performs those acts of karma just to preserve the social norms, so that other people may not disturb him. Just like Prithu Maharaj, just like Bharagat Maharaj. They were also doing yajna, and it seems that they were doing karmakanda yajna. But actually, their consciousness was, when they would offer oblations, they would offer the oblations thinking that this devata is a part of Lord Vishnu. Idam Indra, idam namaha. So when he would say like this, he would consider Lord Indra to be a part of the body of Supreme Lord. And then he says, when one invites Brahmanas, Uh, uh, one should invite two brahmanas if one is offering oblations to devatas. If one is offering oblations to forefathers, he can invite three brahmanas. And in any case, even one brahmana is sufficient. So some technical details is giving. And Narad Muni says that there is actually no need to invite more brahmanas just to show I am so rich, I am so opulent, I am calling so many brahmanas at my place. So one should offer prasad of the deity to the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas who are available. So distribution of food is a must. According to time, place, circumstance, according to one's capacity, one should offer prasads to the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. One should offer respects to devatas, sages, forefathers, relatives, and all the other people. And then Prabhupada writes that in Kali Yuga, there is so much scarcity of grains that people they like to give charity. They like to do philanthropy. We are not against philanthropy, but many times when people they do philanthropy, they are saying that we are doing Daridra Narayan Seva. They are calling this poor people as Narayan. So Prabhupada writes that one should distribute prasad, one should distribute food, because everybody is a part and parcel of God. But one should not juggle with the words. One should not say that, oh, these poor people, they are Daridra Narayan. No, that is not the right way. And then he says that one should not offer, non-vegetarian food products in Shraddha ceremony. And if a person wants to advance in religious life, then one should give up all the envy against all the living entities. Naitadrisha paro dharmo nrinam sadharma ichchatam न्यासो दंडस्य भूतेषु मनोवाक कायजस्य. So one should give up envy with his body, mind, and words. And then persons who are advanced in knowledge, they know the essence of the scriptures. So a duty of a Vaishnava is one should be very, very conversant with the scriptural knowledge. One should not feel lazy in understanding the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. When some pastime comes and then it is so very nice to hear because some story is going on. But when it comes to the philosophy, then many times it feels a little boring and we are not so much interested. But the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is equally important. Because if we don't understand the philosophy properly, the pastimes of Lord they will attract the mind for some time, but they will not sink deep in our heart. It will be just a pious entertainment. So therefore, a person who is advanced in knowledge, he knows everything about all the sacrifices and how to be free from material desires. And then he says, one should be very simple in offering the required things to the brahmanas and the sages. And then after that, he describes that there are 5 types of adharmic irreligious activities. What are the 5 types of adharmic religious activities? Vidharma, paradharmascha, abhasa, upamachalah, adharma shakha, panchema, dharmagyo, adharmavat tyajet. So 5 types of adharma are vidharma, paradharma, abhas dharma, upadharma and chaladharma. So, and he describes all these in detail. He says, what is vidharma? Vidharma means obstruction, or that dharma which obstructs the execution of one's own dharma. And one considers one's own dharma to be inferior. And what is paradharma? Paradharma means it is introduced by someone else and practicing some other person's dharma. Just like Krishna, Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he was telling, I want to live a life of sannyasi. So that is practicing a dharma. That's why Krishna told Arjuna that Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharma sunishchitat swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. It is better to follow one's own religion, own dharma, even if it is difficult to follow. In the initial days of ISKCON, the devotees, they started Gopi Bhav Club. because they understood that gopis are the highest of the devotees and we have to develop the sentiments of gopis. So they started behaving like gopis and they formed a group. And Prabhupada, he came to know, he chastised them and immediately he dismantled that whole thing. There are many pseudo babas, who tell that you are this in Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan. They'll tell you about your Swarupa. There was one devotee in Vrindavan, and he was going to one Babaji of Radha Kund, and that Babaji, he revealed him his form in Goloka. He told that you are peacock in the spiritual world. So what he would do, what is your sadhana? Every day, morning and evening, you should speak like peacock. You should jump like peacock. So every morning, as devotees are chanting Hare Krishna, they would suddenly hear the sounds of peacock coming. So then suddenly they were confused from where this peacock sound is coming. And then they realized that this devotee, he started behaving in a very, very weird way. So that is a paradharma. And there is a abhas dharma. What is abhas dharma? Abhas dharma means whimsically worshipping some devata by imagination or willfully neglecting one's prescribed duties. And we see this very, very rampantly in Kali Yuga. Shukdev Goswami and Narad Muni, they are forecasting whatever is happening now. He is telling 5,000 years back to Yudhishthir Maharaj. What is Abhas Dharma? We see in all the Ganpati pandals, Ganpati is, made in such different forms. Sometimes Ganpati is made as a cricketer. Sometimes, he is like a politician. Sometimes, and I saw a very sad video, Ganpati pandal was like a liquor bar. So many different types of pretentious and imaginary religious activities have been started by people of Kali Yuga. And many years back, you must have seen the movies also about Santoshi Mahavrat. So now it is not there. Nobody talks about it. Once upon a time it was so famous. It is all imaginative dharma. And there is upadharma. Upadharma means there are people who dress themselves as sadhus, but their main goal is they want to cheat people and they want to get more and more money. And we see from where this started. We discussed the story of Prithu Maharaj, how Indra, when he understood that Prithu Maharaj is doing 100 sacrifices. So when 100th sacrifice was about to happen, Indra, he took a form of a sannyasi, Kapalika sannyasi, and he stole the horse. And he continued doing it many times. That was the beginning of pretentious or upadharma. And then Chala Dharma is also there. Chala Dharma means cheating religion, misinterpreting the scriptures by word jugglery. As Prabhupada would talk about a very famous politician of India. He was a president once, and he had written a Bhagavad Gita. So there Prabhupada was very heavy that he is such a great scholar, and just see what he's saying. He's saying, when Krishna is saying, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja, this person is saying you should not surrender to that Krishna who is speaking, but Krishna who is within that Krishna. So this is all Chal Dharma which is going on. It is all pretentious religion. So these people, they use complicated words to fool their own followers. So Prabhupada writes that any religious principle which is opposed to the principle of surrendering to the lotus feet of Krishna, that is a irreligious principle. That is a religious principle of irregularity or cheating, Prabhupada writes. Because ultimate dharma is to surrender. Savaya pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adhokshaje. That is the highest religion of everyone. Varnashramacharvata purushena parapuman vishnuraradhyate pantha na anyat tattosha karanam. So Varnashram system is meant to surrender to Krishna, to serve Krishna. And then Narad Muni says that a householder should be desireless. He should try to earn his livelihood so that he can maintain his body and family properly. Otherwise, he should remain like a python. Python means ajgar. So ajgar vritti, we discussed the story a few days back, how Narad Muni, he met a person, and this Avadhut Brahmana, he said, I am learning from this python. That python, he just lies down at one place, and whatever comes of its own accord, he eats that. So Narad Muni says that actually one who is desireless and he earns whatever is required to make his family uh, healthy and keep them properly situated, that is very, very conducive for the practice of Krishna consciousness. One should not over endeavor for happiness in this world. The principle of atyahar and prayas is very, very important to be understood. That's why Prahlad Maharaj tells his friends that, oh my friends, one should not endeavor for happiness in this world because it is available in all the species of life. So the purpose of human form is to endeavor for that which is not available in all the 14 planetary systems. And what is that? तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद भ्रमतामुपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखं कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा. So Narad Muni is telling in the first canto also to Vyasadeva that one should endeavor only for that which is not available in all the 14 planetary systems. That is, one should endeavor for developing Krishna consciousness. And then Prabhupada gives the example of how one should live with whatever is minimum required. And he gives the example of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri, he would just sit at one place. He would not beg also. Ayachaka vritti. Whatever is given to him without begging, he would accept that. So therefore, Prabhupada writes that all the members of Krishna consciousness movement, whether they be grihasthas or sannyasis, they should try to spread Krishna consciousness movement with their life and soul, with all the determination. And then, of course, Krishna will also give the intelligence how to maintain their family properly, so that we don't over endeavor. Of course, we have to maintain our families, we have to take care of our daily needs, we have to earn so that we can maintain the temple, we can give donations. But the principle of prayas is very, very important to be understood. We should not over endeavor. And then very interesting verses, Narad Muni describes. He says, a greedy person can never be happy in this world. Santushtasya nirihasya swatma ramasya yat sukham kutastat kama lobhena dhavato arthe hayadishah. Santushtasya and nirihasya. One who is content, one is satisfied, and niriha means one who has no desire. Only for minimum basic needs he works. Atma ramasya yat sukham. He is always satisfied within. Kutastat kamalobhena. Where is such happiness for a lusty and a greedy person? A person who is lusty and greedy, he cannot experience this happiness anytime. Why? Dhavato artha ihaya dishaha. Dhavato means he runs. Why he is running? Artha ihaya. Just to get more and more wealth. Even if somebody is a big billionaire, they are also working equally hard. Like, Prabhupada would always strongly say they are working like donkeys. Working so very hard. Dhavato artha ihaya. And what is their satisfaction? Their satisfaction is just the numbers is increasing in the bank account. That's what Prabhupada would say many times. So therefore, again, the principle of atyahar and praya should always be kept in the mind. If we are a billionaire, great, no problem. But we should make sure that we are not compromising our Krishna conscious activities. Otherwise, money is very, very difficult to obtain, to preserve. Even if you want to spend, you have to work very hard. If you have to protect the money, you have to work very hard. So in all the stages of earning money, protecting money, spending money, a person experiences lots of trouble, anxiety and illusion. अर्थस्य साधने सिद्धे उत्कर्षे रक्षणे व्यये नाश उपभोग आयास त्रासस चिंता भ्रमो नृणाम. Ashaya, trasa, chinta and bhram. These four things, they are experienced by a person who are over endeavoring to get money. Intense labor they have to do. Then trasa, very lots of trouble, distress, chinta, anxiety and illusion. So therefore, sada santushta manasa sarva shivamaya disha sarkara kantakadibhyo yato panat pada shivam. He says that, self-satisfied people, they are most happy in this world. If you want to be happy, learn to be satisfied. Sada santushta manasaha. For one whose mind is satisfied, sarva shivamaya dishaha. For him there is happiness, sarvamaya. Everywhere he can see happiness. He can find happiness everywhere. Just like sharkara kantakadibhyo. There is no danger even if one walks on the path which is full of pebbles and thorns, if yatha upapanat padah shivam. If one is wearing a shoe, then however difficult the path may be, however the path may be full of thorns and the pebbles, it will not have any effect on a person who is wearing shoes. Similarly, a person who is satisfied, however temptations may come, as Bhagavad Gita describes, that the rivers, they are entering. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apanoti nakamakami. Just like an ocean never gets disturbed, even if rivers, they constantly enter it. Similarly, a mind of a spiritualist, a devotee, is always peaceful. Na kama kami. He is not the desirer of the desires. Very interesting word Krishna is using. Na kama kami. He is not the desirer of the desires. So therefore, so many temptations will enter the mind, because as we are walking out in the world, so many billboards are there, and even if you are not walking out, you're on some television and your mobile, something keeps coming up. Na kama kami. A devotee is never disturbed, because he has put his feet in a very, very strong protection of Krishna consciousness. His mind will never be disturbed. It will never be pricked by any of the material desires. And therefore he says, Santushta kena va rajan navarte napi varina aupastya jahiva karpanyad grihapalaya tejana. He says, Santushta kena va. O king, why can't a self-satisfied person be happy with drinking only water? That is the extreme stage, extreme thing. Narad Muni is telling to Yudhishthir Maharaj. If somebody does not get food to eat, he can be satisfied with water. What is the problem? Of course, none of us are in that situation where we don't get to eat. Our problem is many times overeating. We have so many things to eat that the problem is not undernourishment, problem is overnourishment, indigestion. So both ways the principle remains the same. We have to be controlled and balanced. And then he says, one who is driven by belly and genitals, aupasthya and jahiva. Aupasthya means one who is driven by belly and genitals. Jahiva means tongue. He is like a household dog. He keeps running here and there just to satisfy his senses. That's what Vidura told to Dhritarashtra. Bhima pavarjitam pindam adatte grihpalva. Just see what is their position. You are living like a dog, Bhima comes and throws some food and you are living on that. Shut parito yatha dinam sarameyam griham griham charan vindanti yaddinam dandam modanam evava. That is a position of a living entity in this world who tries to satisfy his senses. He's like a street dog, not a pet dog, street dog. Somewhere he is beaten, somewhere he is given something to eat. So therefore, scriptures many times they give very extreme examples just to emphasize the point of becoming detached from sense gratification. And Shukdev Goswami, Sud Goswami also, he had told a similar line of verses. Shaunakadi Rishis, they had told to Sud Goswami in the second canto that what is the value of a human body if it is not used in service of Krishna? If one is not using his ears in hearing about Krishna, ears are like ear holes, are like holes where snakes live. If somebody is not speaking about Krishna, his tongue is like the tongue of a toad. Just croaks and attracts the snake. Snake comes and devours that frog. So what is the use of just living life for belly and genitals, Jihvera lalasai ityuti dhaya shishnodar parayan Krishna nahi paye. The person who is obedient and dedicated his life to belly and genitals, he cannot attain Krishna. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, what is real satisfaction? Real satisfaction means when one satisfies the desires of Krishna, who is satisfied by serving Krishna. And actually, we sometimes people think satisfaction is an emotion which will come. No, satisfaction is not an emotion. It is a choice we have to make. We have to make a choice that I'll be satisfied with this much. Otherwise, the desires are unlimited. Desires are like the blazing fire, inferno. However fuel you put in, it will not stop. Only Krishna Katha can completely satisfy the mind. Darshananno didrikshunam dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamam swanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Sarvendriya gunanjanam. Only Krishna can satisfy all the senses. Chaitanya Gosaira Lila Amrite Radhar Sarvendriya Tripta Hoy Shravane Yahar. If we hear the pastimes of Krishna, if we hear the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then our senses can be satisfied. Otherwise, those people who are greedy, they can never be satisfied. They will always be dissatisfied. Asantushtasya viprasya tejo vidya tapo yashah sarvantindriya laulyena jnanam chaivavakiriyate. Asantushtasya viprasya. A brahmana who is unsatisfied, he is greedy for the senses. This person, he gradually loses all his spiritual strength. He loses his education. He loses the austerity, fame, knowledge. Everything is lost for a person who is not satisfied. That is an insatiable greed. Insatiable greed is the cause of dissatisfied life. Kamasyantam hishutridhyam krodhasyaitat falodayat janoyatina lobhasya jitva bhuktva disho bhuva. So if by eating, the needs of hunger is satisfied. By drinking, thirst is satisfied. Anger is satisfied by venting out, by chastising somebody. But the greed can never be satisfied. The greed for money can never be satisfied. All the other things can be satisfied. Greed can never be satisfied. So therefore, this lust and this greed, they are insatiable. Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha. So that's what Prabhupada writes in the purport, that if somebody wants to be greedy, he should be greedy to advance in Krishna consciousness. That is the greatest boon one will have in life. If somebody wants to be greedy, the best way to show the greed is be greedy for Krishna. Be greedy to increase the Krishna conscious practices. Krishna bhakti ras bhavita mati kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritir na labhyate. If we want to experience the rasa of Krishna consciousness, Krishna bhakti rasa, every one of us, we have tasted little bit of rasa of Krishna consciousness. That's why we are still here. That's why we are, taking out time every day, hearing so many classes, reading, chanting, associating with devotees. Why? We have got some taste, some rasa, and we want more. So if you want the taste of Krishna consciousness, rasa of Krishna consciousness, what is the price? Nothing comes free in this world. You have to pay the price. What is that price? Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam. Only price is you have to be greedy about it. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that dissatisfaction arises from greed. Because greed is difficult to conquer, dissatisfaction is hard to remove. One cannot stop greed. Though one conquers all the directions, he may enjoy all the earth, but he cannot be satisfied. And the very prime example of this is Hiranyakashipu. Saitham nirjit kaku bekarat vishayan priyan yathopajosham bhunjano natripyat ajitendriya. He had everything. We have discussed in great detail. The whole universe, apart from Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, everybody was under the control of Hiranyakashipu. But still he was not satisfied. That is the characteristic of a greedy person. And what is the result of this type of dissatisfaction? Even if somebody is a scholar, a very learned person, a leader, if he is not satisfied, he falls down. He falls down from his path. He falls down from his position. And therefore, Prabhupada writes that material greed and spiritual progress, they are both very, very poles apart thing. If somebody wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, then one has to stop all the materialistic mentality. And then he says that good qualifications are lost due to two things: poverty and greed. If one is too poor, that is also hinder the person's progress in path of Krishna consciousness, because as it is said, daridra dosho guna rashi nashi. If somebody is so very poor, he will be busy in just acquiring something to maintain his body. How he will focus on developing Krishna consciousness? So therefore, somehow or other, we have to earn so that we can live peacefully in life. And this peace is a relative term. A person who is a billionaire, he has to maintain his status. A person who is just a middle-aged man, society person, he has to take care of the needs according to his level. And somebody who is staying in a slum, he has to earn according to his level. So everybody has to earn according to their level so that they are peaceful. So that is the thing which Narad Muni describes. And then after this, he says, actually on this path of Krishna consciousness, there are so many obstacles, and how to overcome the obstacles. These obstacles are our anarthas. So how to conquer the anarthas, Narad Muni very nicely describes in 3 verses. Asankalpa jayet kamam krodham kama vivarjanat arthekshaya lobham bhayam tattvatma varshanat. Asankalpat jayet kamam. Lust is so very difficult to give up. The desire to have sex life is so very difficult to give up. How to overcome that? By being determined. So Prabhupada writes, if one is determined not to indulge in this sexual activity, then slowly over a period of time, one will become free from this lust. So we have to say a consistent no to the mind's demands. Mind will say, okay, just see this or do this. Consistent no has to be there. How to give up anger? By giving up the objective of sense desire. How to give up greed? By considering the problems of wealth. If I'm earning money, so many things are there. I have to take care of so many things. Just to earn money is difficult. Just to protect money is more difficult. And even if I'm spending money, there are so many things I have to take care of. So the greed is minimized if somebody considers the problem of wealth. How to give up the fear? Fear can be given up by considering that suffering is due to karma. In this world, people are fearful because they don't know what will be the consequence of their actions. So if we know that all the problems which we are going through in life, it is because of our previous life's activities or this life's activities, will work in such a way that we don't generate more karma. How to give up fear? How to give up lamentation and illusion? By deliberation on the knowledge of matter and spirit. By understanding that, okay, this world is temporary and material spiritual world is permanent. When we contemplate based on the scriptural knowledge, then we can give up the lamentation. If somebody dies in the family, if some loss happens, we discussed how when Hiranyaksha, he was killed by Lord Varaha. So Hiranyakashipu, he told the whole philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, how soul is eternal, matter is temporary. So these are the basic principles which we have to accept and understand whenever we are in disturbed situation. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Even when Arjuna, we discussed in the first canto, when he realized, he came to know that Krishna has left this world, he was so very disturbed. Then what he did? He remembered the instructions which Krishna gave to him on the battlefield. Govinda abhitani me. So the principles of Krishna consciousness, this philosophy helps us to come out of this lamentation and illusion. And how to give up the pride? Pride can be given up by serving the great devotees of the Lord. When we serve the great devotees, we realize that actually I am nothing in front of these devotees. I have no devotion. They are so very great. I am insignificant. So where is the matter of being proud? And then, by silence, one can give up the obstacles in yoga. And Prabhupada, of course, he writes in many places for Krishna consciousness. For a person who is Krishna conscious, best way to be silent is to speak only about Krishna. One can give up envy or violence by giving up the desire for sense gratification. And when one sees the suffering, when one is merciful to the others, one can avoid putting others in trouble. And then how to be free from sufferings which are given by providence? By being absorbed in trance, by meditation. And then so many things he describes. And then after describing this, he says that all these qualities, they will come only if somebody surrenders to a guru. So the importance of surrendering to a spiritual master is very, very important. Etat sarvam gurau bhaktya purusho hi anjasa tyajet. The quality to give up lust, give up anger, give up pride, all these will be automatically given up. Lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, fear. They will automatically go away if somebody is engaging in service of the Lord and the service of the spiritual master. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande shri gurum dinataranam. So by the power of surrendering to Krishna's devotee, spiritual master, one can become free from all these vested desires, from all these anarthas. Yasya sakshat bhagavati jnana deepa prade gurau martasya dhi shrutam tasya sarvam kunjara shauchavat. Otherwise, if somebody is not surrendering to the spiritual master, then whatever knowledge one may acquire, it is like an elephant bathing. It will not be having any use. If somebody thinks that a spiritual master is like an ordinary person, I am also a person. He is also having a material body. I am also having material body. What is the difference? He is destined to go to hell. Arche Vishnu Gurushu Shiladhir Vaishnave Jati Buddhir. Gurushu Narmati Vaishnave Jati Buddhir. Arche Vishnu, if somebody considers a deity of the Lord to be stone, if somebody considers spiritual master to be ordinary person, and if somebody sees a Vaishnava based on the caste, he is destined to go to hell. So therefore Prabhupada writes, one should consider the spiritual master to be as good as Supreme Personality. Otherwise one is doomed. So therefore the glories of taking shelter of spiritual master is described by Narad Muni here. And then after that he says, people sometime, because when Narad Muni is speaking all this, Yudhishthir Maharaj may get a doubt. Okay, you are telling that spiritual master should be accepted as God, but the relatives of Guru and the neighbors of Guru, they don't consider him to be God. They consider him to be an ordinary human being. How can a disciple consider him as God? So Narad Muni says, even when Krishna was there, Krishna was understood as a human, normal, ordinary human being by many persons. Krishna is the master of all the jivas. He is a pradhana purusha ishwaraha. He was also considered as a human being. Now he is, Krishna is there still at the present at that time, Rajasuya Yagya. So Narad Muni is telling Krishna is also considered as a normal human being by many people, although he is not. So therefore only fools consider Krishna to be ordinary person. Similarly, only a fool will consider spiritual master to be ordinary person. If family members are considering spiritual master to be ordinary person, that does not mean that he is an ordinary human being. One should serve the spiritual master as good as God. And Prabhupada writes that Guru is called Sevak Bhagavan. He is a supreme personality of servitor Godhead. And Krishna is Sevya Bhagavan. Sevya Bhagavan means he is the personality of Godhead who should be worshipped. So Guru is the worshipper of God, whereas Krishna is the worshipable God. One time Prabhupada was, at one temple and Guru Puja was happening, and one person who was new, he was showing some interest in Krishna consciousness. So all the devotees, they were doing this Guru Puja and Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. They were very loudly chanting the names of Prabhupada. And then this person, he saw that Prabhupada, this A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he's also chanting this Shri Guru Charan Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. So after the whole ceremony, whole Guru Puja, he asked one devotee, okay, I can understand that you are all praising this person, but I saw that this Swamiji was also repeating the same prayers. For whom he was repeating? Why he was saying? So then this devotee, he said that actually we are offering all respects to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is offering all those respects to his Guru. That is the ideal Guru Shishya Parampara. So that is the understanding of a servitor Godhead. And then he says that there are so many rules and regulations and so many austerities which are meant to control the mind and the senses. And by all this, one should come to the point of meditating on the Supreme Lord. If somebody is practicing the rules and regulations of the scriptures, following the austerities and rituals, but if somebody is not worshipping Krishna, all his endeavor is just a waste of labor. It is a useless labor. And this is a theme which is described again and again in Bhagavatam. Dharma sunashtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasuya na utpadiyed ratimyadi shrama evahi kevalam. If all the religious duties, they don't help us to develop love for Krishna, That is all shrama evahi kevalam. That is all useless labor. Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthapad sevaya jivan napi mritopisa. If your karma does not lead to dharma, uh, nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate. If your dharma does not lead to renunciation, and if your renunciation does not lead to devotional service, then what is the use of living? What is the use of doing all these things? So therefore, one can conquer lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, fear by surrendering to spiritual master, by surrendering to the devotees of the Lord. And therefore, he says that, one's occupation, though it produces wealth, it cannot make one spiritually advanced. Similarly, Vedic rituals, if they are done by non-devotees, they will not help one come close to Krishna. So it is very, very important that whatever activities we are doing in Krishna consciousness, we have to be conscious of Krishna. If we are not conscious, then the activity will not give us proper benefit. Especially while we are chanting, we have to put our all efforts, try to be as attentive as possible. Otherwise, even if we chant for many, many decades, we will feel that we are at the same place. We have same anarthas because we have not put our heart in that. Anyways, we have to chant our 16 rounds. Anyways, we have to spend 2 hours. So why not do it sincerely, attentively? Otherwise, all the material progress will not help in spiritual advancement. Tapasvino dana parayashasvino manasvino mantravido sumangalaha Shemam na vindanti vinaya darpanam tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Shukdev Goswami is saying in the second canto, if somebody is a great tapasvi, somebody is a great giver of charity, all these things, if they are not offered to Krishna, they will not give the proper result. And then after this, Narad Muni describes the process of liberation for a householder. So basically, it is a Ashtanga Yoga process which Narad Muni is describing, because that was the prevalent way of perfecting life, and that's what we saw. How Pandavas, when they realized Krishna has left, they left everything. They went to the forest. We saw how Dhritarashtra, when he left, he performed all this Ashtanga Yoga and merged in Brahman. So that is the whole process of this liberation which Narad Muni gives here. He says that at a proper age, one should renounce family and enter forest, live alone, and make the asana at a proper place. And Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter describes in great detail. And then one should learn the process of pranayam, and slowly by that, mind becomes detached from sense gratification. And then with that peaceful mind, it is so very easy to focus on the Supreme Lord. And then he says, actually, one who accepts sannyas and then later returns to the materialistic activities, he is called a vantasi. Vantasi means a person who eats his own vomit. That is so very abominable. And then he says there is a asattama sannyasi. Asattama sannyasi means there are some sannyasis who first consider that this body is perishable, it is going to get destroyed, it is going to be transformed into stool and the worms or ashes, and then later they give all importance to the body. They are greatest rascals. They are asattama. And then he says in all the different ashramas, there are some activities which should be given up. They are so very abominable. So a grihastha, one should never give up the prescribed duties. A brahmachari should never give up the vows. A vanaprastha should never live in village or do social activities. And a sannyasi should be very much against sense gratification. गृहस्थस्य क्रिया त्यागो व्रत त्यागो वटोरपि तपस्विनो ग्राम सेवा bhikshor indriya lolata. So therefore, these activities should be given up. And then he says, such lowest uh, people, they are very much bewildered. Those who are grihasthas, but they are engaging, they are giving up their prescribed duties. If somebody is a brahmachari and he is not sticking to his vows, if somebody is a vanaprastha, he is staying in the village, he is doing social activities. If somebody is a sannyasi doing sense gratification, you should know that they are deva maya vimudham stan. They are under the maya potency of the Lord. They are completely bewildered. Therefore, one should reject them. One should not associate with them. So that because they are very, very dangerous. And then he says, why one gives up the human this sannyas order? Human form of life is meant for understanding the supreme self. Even after understanding the supreme self, understanding the importance of this, why one should give up the opportunity to perfect life? And therefore, material body is a cause of bondage, and same body is a cause of liberation also. And therefore, now Narad Muni describes the whole chariot body metaphor, and he compares the different parts of the body to a part of a chariot. He says the horses, they are like the senses. The famous Bhagavad Gita metaphor, Prabhupada also quotes in the purport the same verses from Katha Upanishad. But here Narad Muni is giving some more details to it. He says horses, they are like the senses. The reins, they are like the mind. The destinations, they are like the sense objects. Because senses, they want to go towards the sense objects. That is the destination of the chariot of the body many times. Chariot driver is the intelligence, and the seat of the charioteer is the consciousness. So Prabhupada writes that for a person who is bewildered because of the materialistic way of life, he is always engaged in sense gratification. He is like, and because of this being entangled in the material activities, the result is repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. Human body may be used in two ways: for going to the darkest regions of ignorance, and for going back home, back to Godhead. So who attains these two destinations? If somebody is engaging in sense gratification, Mahat sevam dwaram ahur vimukte tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. If somebody is associating with sense gratifiers, or if somebody is associating with the opposite gender unrestrictedly, they will go to hellish destinations. If somebody is associating with devotees of the Lord, they will attain the perfection of life. And then he says, the spokes of the wheel of this chariot, they are the life air. There are 10 types of life air. So what are the 10 types of life air? So Prabhupada quotes the 10 types: prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana, naga, kurma, krikala, devadatta, and dhananjaya. So basically, whatever movement is happening in the body, it is because of some air which is moving. So these are the spokes of the wheels. And then what are the wheels of this chariot? There are two wheels: religion and irreligion. And the passenger is the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is the passenger, the important point. And this passenger has a bow. This bow is the Omkar. And this bow is given to this conditioned soul by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the Guru. And then it has an arrow also. This arrow represents the pure soul. And with this bow and the arrow, what is the target one has to achieve? Target is Supreme Lord Vishnu or Krishna, the ultimate goal. So the pure soul, which is when the conditioned soul becomes free from all the contaminations, it is like the arrow which is coming from the conditioned soul and taking shelter of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. And then in this chariot, This person is fighting. There are some enemies he has to conquer. Which are the enemies? These are attachment, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, envy, and all the other anarthas. And then this living entity has a sword to destroy the enemies. What is that sword? That sword represents the sword of knowledge. Ritstham jnanasinatmanah chitvainam samshayam yogam atishtottishta bharata, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So this Ritstham jnana asina, this sword of knowledge is sufficient to cut all the doubts of ignorance. So this sword is very, very important, and this sword is obtained when one hears submissively from the spiritual master. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. This chariot may take a wrong path. What is the wrong path? If somebody is not taking shelter of Lord Achyuta or Baladeva, then he may go to return to the path of sense enjoyment in this world. And then he may fall down in a deep, dark well of this samsara. Andhasya me rita vivek mahadhanasya chaurai prabho balibhirindriyanamatheyah mohandhakupakuhare vinipatitasya deveshu dehi kripanasya karavalambam. Kulakshekar Maharaj is saying, I have become blinded because of, andhasya merit, my intelligence is stolen. My power of discrimination is stolen. Who has stolen it? Chaurei prabho balibhir indriyanamadheyah. Very strong, powerful thieves called senses. And because of that, I have fallen in this deep, dark well of illusion. Mohandhakupa kuhare vinipatitasya. Therefore, now I am surrendering to you, O my Lord. So that is the chariot body metaphor which is described. And then after this, he says that if enjoyment in the world is a wrong path, then why it is prescribed in the scriptures? If enjoyment is a wrong path, it should not have been prescribed in the scriptures. So therefore now Narad Muni describes that there are different prescriptions which are given according to the level of a person. There are two types of path. One is a path of pravritti and other is a path of nivritti. Pravritti means a path of enjoyment. So the persons who are not sufficiently qualified to give up all sense gratification, what they are recommended? Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha dvividham karma vaidikam avartate pravrittena nivrittena shnushte amritam. So according to the Vedic path, there are two kinds of activities, pravritti and nivritti. If somebody is engaging in pravritti, the result is he may go to a higher destination, but again he comes back. Again he comes back in this material life. And if somebody is taking the path of nivritti, path of detachment, amritam ashnute, he will attain ultimate perfection of life. So therefore, pravritti marg is meant for those people who cannot give up sense gratification, who cannot focus on service to Krishna. They follow a path which is called pitriyana. In Bhagavad Gita also, similar thing is described called Devayan and Pitriyan. So this is the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 24th and 25th verses. They describe the Devayan and Pitriyan, path of light and path of darkness. The person who is a jnani or a detached person, when he leaves the body following all the rules and regulations of the scriptures, living a detached life, giving up all desire for sense gratification, he follows a path by which he can ultimately merge into Brahman. Agnir Jyoti Raha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanan Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vidojana. He attains perfection. And there are some people who are karmis, they are still attached to sense gratification. They follow another path. and that is called path of darkness. That is called Pitriyan. They go to higher planetary systems, to the moon, and then ultimately enjoy there, exhaust their pious credits, again come back to earth. Shine punya marti lokam vishanti. So the conclusion is that, even though one is situated in this material body, one should be aware of these two types of paths. And one who knows these two types of paths, he take the right decision and is never bewildered in this material world. As Krishna also describes in the 27th verse of this 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that the devotee is never bewildered by all this. When to die, if I die at this point of time, I will go to this destination, or if I die at a wrong time, I'll go to a lower destination. Devotee is not concerned by all that. Devotee is just concerned with surrendering to Krishna. So therefore, Prabhupada writes there, a devotee of the Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. Because Krishna is personally taking care of devotees. Even if somebody dies by accident, we have seen in our Krishna consciousness movement in our ISKCON, there are some great devotees, Prabhupada disciples, who died in accident, just like Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he died in a car accident. Aindra Prabhu, he died because of a fire outbreak. So one should not have any doubt that they died in such a sudden way. Krishna is there. He is always there to protect his devotees. Krishna says that, if at the time of death my devotee is not able to remember me, I remember my devotee. I remember my devotee and bring him to my abode. Aham nayami madbhakta nayami paramam gutim. Vatadi yadi doshena madbhakto na chamam smaret aham smaratni madbhakta nayami paramam gatim. If sometimes out of some problem, some pain because of the throat which is choked with cough and mucus, my devotee is not able to remember me, madbhakta nachamam smaret, he is not able to remember me, aham smarami madbhakta. Krishna is saying, I remember my devotees, I bring them back to my abode. So devotee is not bewildered. And then Narad Muni, he summarizes the occupational duties. He says, Brahman is the supreme. Adavante jananam sad bahirantah paravaram jnanam geyam vacho vachyam tamo jyotis tvayam swayam. He says, that supreme Brahman, he was existing in the beginning, he is existing now, and he will exist in the future also. He is a supreme source of all the living entities. And then he describes in so many verses how this world is not false. The world is real, but the world is temporary. The dualities which one experiences in this world, they are actually coming because we are identifying ourselves with the material body. The body is not false, body is real, but it is temporary. But we are identifying ourselves with this temporary body. That's why we are seeing things in terms of me and mine. Ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham. All these things are happening because I am considering this is my body and the things which are related to this body are mine. And then he describes various philosophies of oneness, Advaita philosophy, Bhayadvaita, Kriyadvaita, and Dravyadvaita. There are so many things he describes. And then he says, the summary of all these various occupational duty is one must perform prescribed duties according to one's status of life. According to a situation a person is in, he should try to serve Krishna. That is the ultimate purpose of Varnashram. Yena kena prakaren manah Krishna niveshayet. And therefore, now Narad Muni is concluding this section by describing that Krishna is so very merciful on the Pandavas. Because by worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna, Pandavas, they have become free from the material attachment. That's why Kunti Maharani, even in the middle of all the problems, She was praying, Vishan Mahagne Purushad Darshana. So many problems have come in my life, O Krishna. But please, I want more problems. Let the calamities come again and again. Because when calamities will come, you will come to save us and we'll have your darshan. So that is the perfection of life. All the problems one may experience in life, one can cross all these material problems by taking shelter of Krishna. So one should not have this utopian understanding that problems will not come. A devotee will learn how to deal with the problems in a right way. And then, after describing this, he says that, devotees, he take the instructions of the Lord as the proof that devotional service is not dependent on any of the varnashram activities. Whoever you may be, you can practice devotional service. And to substantiate this statement, Narad Muni gives his own personal example. He says that, in the another kalpa, some other Mahakalpa, I was a Gandharva called Upabarhana. I was a very beautiful, very friendly, I had a very well built, attractive body, and therefore naturally I was surrounded with so many women. Rupa, Peshala, Madhurya, Saugandhya, Priyadarshanaha, Strinam Priyatamo Nityam Matta Swapuralampatam. He had all the wonderful, bodily features. He was expert singer. He was beautiful, handsome, well built. So therefore, naturally, he was attracting so many women. One day, in that assembly of the Prajapatis, they decided to do a festival for the celebration of Supreme Lord Vishnu, his glories. So they called the best of the Gandharvas and the Apsaras. So this Upabarhana, he was also invited, and because of the invitation he went. He was completely intoxicated because of the wealth and the pride and all the skills he had. So it is very, very important, if somebody has janma, karma, vaya, rupa, vidya, aishwarya, dhan, all these are very, very intoxicating. High birth, very high pious activities, good pious activities, a youthful, beautiful body, lots of knowledge, all the opulence, wealth, very intoxicating. Yadi yasya na bhavet stambha tatrayam mad anugrahat. So Lord Vaman Dev is telling about Bali Maharaj that even after getting all these things, if somebody is not proud, you should know that he has received my mercy. That is very, very important. So this Gandharva, Upabarhana, because he was not a devotee, he was a materialistic person. He was surrounded by women. He was, glorifying the beauty, ordinary beauty. So when he was invited, instead of glorifying the qualities of Krishna, he started glorifying the ordinary, mundane beauty of the world. When Prajapatis, they heard this, they became very angry. They were offended and they cursed him. They said, because you have transgressed the rules of a civilized society, you are behaving like a Shudra. Therefore, become a Shudra. And because of that curse, Narad Muni is saying that I became son of a maid servant. And we discussed the whole pastime in the first canto. So Narad Muni tells that although I became the son of a maid servant, but I got a chance to serve the devotees of the Lord. And by the mercy of the devotees of the Lord, I could perfect my life. And I became the son of Brahma in the next kalpa. So Prabhupada writes there that the first offense of Upabarhana was he went to a Sankirtan party in company of lusty women. And another offense was he considered ordinary songs like cinema songs equal to Sankirtana. So we should never consider ordinary Bollywood songs as equal to Sankirtana. So, and then Narad Muni describes that, therefore, although I became a Shudra by the power of devotional service, I could attain such a higher position. And after describing all this, he says, thus, O Yudhishthir, I have described to you the dharma of a grihastha. By practicing this dharma, the sins are completely destroyed. And the foremost of all the dharmic principles a devotee, a grihastha should follow is the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. That is the ultimate gain for all the humanity. And then again, Narad Muni glorifies the Pandavas. And he repeats the same verse which he spoke in the 10th chapter. And after we started our discussion today, how Yudhishthira Maharaj was feeling so very sad that, oh, Prahlad Maharaj could get darshan of the Lord. I am not so fortunate. So Narad Muni told him that you are most fortunate. Same, exact same verse is coming second time. Word to word, exact same. 75th verse, again the same. यूयं निलोके बत भूरि भागा लोकं पुनाना मुनयोभियन्ति येषां गृहाणा वसतीति साक्षात् गूढ़ं परं ब्रह्म मनुष्यलिंगम. You are so very fortunate, but bhuri bhaga. The great sages, they are hankering, they are always coming to your home to take darshan of that Supreme Lord. And that Supreme Lord is residing in your home as your servant, as your messenger, as your friend, companion, chariot driver. You are most fortunate. Oh Pandavas, you are most fortunate. Because Krishna acts as your well-wisher. He is your friend, cousin, heart and the soul. He is your worshipable deity. So therefore, after instructing Yudhishthir in this way, Narad Muni, he prays for the blessings to the Supreme Lord. Blessing, he'll ask, praise to the Lord for his blessings so that Lord may be pleased with him. And, after this, Narad Muni's final prayer, he says, Nayasya sakshat bhagavat padmajabdhihi rupam dhiya vastutayopavarnitam maunena bhaktyopasamanena pujita prasidatamesha sasatvatam patihi. He says, even Shiva, even Brahma cannot understand that Supreme Lord. Nobody can describe the form of the Lord by using his intelligence. Dhiya, Rupam Dhiya. Nobody can understand by his intelligence. He is worshipped by silence. Silence means only by glorification of his name, form, and activities. May that Supreme Lord, may the Master of the devotees be pleased with me. Satvatampati. Prasidatam esh sasatvatampati. So therefore only a devotee of the Lord can know him. Bhaktya mama vijanati. And then after describing this, now Shukdev Goswami, he describes, hearing the instructions of Narad Muni, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he became so very happy. He felt great pleasure. He felt symptoms of ecstasy, great love and great affection. And after that, he bade farewell to Narad Muni. Narad Muni departed. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj was amazed. He started thinking that we are so very fortunate. The Supreme Lord Krishna is living with us as our cousin. So very fortunate we are. And then Shukdev Goswami says, Oh Parikshit Maharaj, all the living entities in the world, they were generated by daughters of Daksha. And now I have described them completely, and I have described the different dynasties also. So that is the end of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So if anybody has any questions, you can ask. Okay, so thank you very much. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.